The refugee ship Eternal Hope drifted through the void, its hull scarred by plasma burns and meteor impacts. Inside, 3,000 Zephyrians huddled in cramped quarters, their blue-scaled skin dulled by exhaustion and despair. Captain Vexhai stood on the bridge, staring at the communication console that had remained silent for weeks. "Any response from the Galactic Council?" asked Commander Thelen, though her voice carried no hope. "Nothing," Vexhai replied, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "The Andromedan Republic won't even acknowledge our transmission. The Centauri Federation sent a single message: refugee status denied. Maintain current trajectory away from our borders." The Zephyrian homeworld of Kepler 442b had been consumed by their dying star just 6 months ago. The solar expansion had been predicted for decades, giving them time to build evacuation ships, but nowhere to go. Every major galactic power had closed their borders when the crisis began. Too many refugees meant resource strain, they said. Security risks, they claimed. The galaxy had watched an entire civilization burn and turned away. Dr. Melira, the ship's chief scientist, approached with a datapad. Her usually pristine lab coat was stained and wrinkled. "Captain, our food synthesizers are operating at 30% efficiency. Water recycling is holding, but barely. The children." She paused, unable to finish. Vexhai knew what she couldn't say. The children were dying first, their smaller bodies unable to cope with the reduced rations and recycled air. In the lower decks, parents sang traditional lullabies to younglings who grew thinner each day. The elderly had already begun refusing their food portions, giving them to the young ones instead. "There has to be someone," Thelen insisted. "We've tried the major powers, but what about the smaller systems? The independent colonies?" "We've broadcast on all frequencies," Vexhai said. "Every inhabited system within our fuel range has either refused us or ignored us completely. The Rigel Confederacy actually threatened to fire on us if we approached their territory." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of failing life support systems. Outside the viewports, space stretched endlessly, beautiful and merciless. Somewhere out there were worlds with clean air and fresh water, with soil that could grow crops and skies that didn't carry the taste of recycled atmosphere. But none of those worlds wanted the Zephyrians. "Sir," called Ensign Koreth from the communications station, "I'm picking up something unusual. It's not on any of the standard diplomatic frequencies." Vexhai moved to the station. "What kind of signal?" "It's primitive. Very narrowband radio waves. Looks like it's coming from a system about 2 weeks away at our current speed." Koreth adjusted the controls, frowning. "The star designation is Sol 3. No major civilization listed in our databases. Shows as a restricted system under some old Galactic Council survey classification." "Restricted how?" Dr. Melira asked. Koreth pulled up the ancient files. "Says here the inhabitants are pre-contact primitives with violent tendencies. The notation is over 200 years old. The system was marked as off-limits for standard development protocols." Vexhai studied the data. Sol 3 was a small blue-green world orbiting a yellow star. The planet showed signs of industrial development, but nothing approaching galactic standard technology. Primitive meant they likely had no space-based defenses, no way to turn the refugees away with force. "What's the signal saying?" he asked. Koreth worked to decode the transmission. It's a repeating message in multiple languages. Something about welcome and mathematical principles. It seems to be some kind of greeting." "A greeting signal?" Thelen moved closer. "They're broadcasting a welcome message into space." "That's what it looks like. The signal's been repeating for, calculations show it's been going for over 40 years. Same message, constantly broadcasting." Dr. Melira laughed, but there was no humor in it. Primitives sending welcome messages to the galaxy. How ironic. The advanced civilizations slam their doors shut, and some backward world keeps saying hello. Vexhai made his decision. The fuel reserves were too low to reach any other system that might take them. The life support was failing. They had weeks at most before the ship became a tomb drifting through space. "Set course for Sol 3. Best possible speed." "Sir," Thelen protested. "If they're primitives, they might not have the resources to help us. They might not even understand what we are." "They might not," Vexhai agreed. "But they're the first ones who bothered to say hello." The Eternal Hope changed course, its engines straining to push the massive vessel toward the unknown system. In the refugee quarters, families gathered around small viewing screens, watching the stars shift as their ship turned toward what might be their last chance. As they traveled, they began intercepting more signals from Sol 3. The inhabitants called themselves humans. Their transmissions were crude but constant, radio waves carrying music, voices, images. Dr. Melira worked with her team to decode and translate the signals. What they found was puzzling. These humans broadcast constantly. She reported to the captain after 3 days of study. Music, stories, news, entertainment. They send signals out to space like they're hoping someone will hear them. But, according to our scans, they've never been contacted by any galactic civilization. They're talking to an empty sky, Felon observed. Yes, but they keep talking. For decades. And their content. Melira paused, reviewing her notes. They tell stories about creatures from other worlds. They sing about stars and space travel. They make entertainment about meeting alien beings. It's like they're preparing themselves for contact that hasn't happened yet. Vexhai found this fascinating. Most primitive worlds were inward-focused, concerned only with their own local conflicts and resources. But these humans seemed to dream of the wider universe, creating fantasies about cosmic neighbors they'd never met. As the Eternal Hope drew closer to Sol 3, they detected more detailed information. The planet was indeed inhabited by a single species, but they'd achieved remarkable diversity in their development. Some regions showed advanced technology, while others seemed centuries behind. They had orbital satellites, but no interstellar capability. Most surprisingly, they had no unified planetary government. How do they coordinate anything? Ensign Koreth wondered as he reviewed the data. They don't, apparently, Dr. Melire replied. Hundreds of separate nations, thousands of languages, multiple competing economic systems. By all galactic standards, they should be in constant warfare. Maybe they are, Felon suggested darkly. But the intercepted transmissions suggested otherwise. While there were conflicts, much of the human communication seemed focused on cooperation, trade, cultural exchange, and shared challenges. They were chaotic, certainly, but not self-destructive. As they entered the outer edge of the Sol system, warning lights began flashing throughout the Eternal Hope. The life support systems were failing faster than expected. The additional strain of the course change and speed increase had pushed the ancient machinery beyond its limits. How long do we have? Vexhai asked the engineering chief. Days, maybe a week if we shut down non-essential systems. Vexhai looked at the tactical display. Sol 3 was still 8 days away at maximum speed. They weren't going to make it. Sir, Koreth called out. I'm detecting movement in the outer system. Multiple contacts accelerating toward us. Every Zephyrian on the bridge tensed. Had the humans detected them? Were they sending warships to turn them away like every other species had done? On the main screen, a formation of primitive spacecraft appeared. They were crude compared to galactic standard vessels, using chemical propulsion and basic metal construction. But they were fast, and they were heading directly for the Eternal Hope. They're hailing us, Koreth announced. On screen, the view screen flickered, then showed the face of a human. The creature was smaller than a Zephyrian, with strange pale skin and no scales. But its eyes were bright with intelligence, and, when it spoke, translation software managed to parse the meaning. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth ship Endeavor. We've detected your ship is in distress. Do you require assistance? The bridge fell silent. In all their months of desperate flight, these were the first words of genuine concern they'd heard from another species. Vexhai found his voice. This is Captain Vexhai of the refugee ship Eternal Hope. We are Zephyrians from the Kepler system. Our world was destroyed when our star expanded. We carry 3,000 refugees seeking sanctuary. Our life support is failing. The human captain's expression shifted to one of alarm and determination. Acknowledged, Captain Vexhai. We're moving to intercept. Our medical and engineering teams are preparing for emergency assistance. Hang tight. Help is on the way. As the transmission ended, Commander Thelen stared at the screen in shock. They didn't ask about our credentials. They didn't demand to know our military capabilities or economic resources. They just offered to help. Because they heard someone calling for help, Dr. Meliare whispered. And they answered. For the first time in months, Captain Vexhai felt something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. The first human ship to reach the Eternal Hope was barely a quarter of its size, yet it moved with precision and purpose. Captain Sarah Chin's voice came across the communication channel with calm authority. Captain Vexhai, we're seeing massive system failures throughout your ship. We're going to dock with your emergency airlocks and begin immediate life support assistance. Through the viewports, Vexhai watched the human vessel maneuver alongside his failing ship. The engineering was primitive but effective, and the pilot showed remarkable skill. Within an hour, human technicians in bulky spacesuits were floating through the corridors of the Eternal Hope, carrying equipment that looked crude but functioned perfectly. The lead engineer was a stocky human named Marcus Rodriguez. He spoke through a translation device that his people had rapidly adapted to Zephyrian language patterns. Your atmospheric recyclers are shot, he told Dr. Meliare as they examined the life support systems. But the basic design is sound. We can jury-rig our portable units to interface with your distribution system. It won't be pretty, but it'll keep everyone breathing while we work on permanent repairs. Dr. Meliare watched in amazement as the humans worked. Their technology was centuries behind galactic standards, but their approach was innovative and practical. Where a Centauri engineer would have declared the systems irreparable and recommended complete replacement, the humans found ways to make broken things work again. How did you learn to do this? She asked Marcus as he welded a connection between human and Zephyrian systems. Necessity, he replied with a grin. Humans have been fixing broken things with spare parts and creativity for thousands of years. When you don't have the latest technology, you learn to make the old stuff work. Meanwhile, Captain Chun was coordinating with more human vessels that had arrived in the system. Vexhai listened to their communications with growing astonishment. Unity is bringing additional food synthesizers, Chun reported to her fleet. Discovery has medical teams standing by. Pioneer is loaded with temporary housing modules. And Ambassador is carrying representatives from 12 Earth nations who want to discuss refugee placement options. 12 nations? Vexhai asked. We don't have a unified world government, Chin explained. But when word got out about your situation, countries started volunteering to help. The competition now is over who gets to host the most refugees. This was incomprehensible to Vexhai. In galactic civilization, refugees were burdens to be avoided. Resources spent on outsiders were resources not available for citizens. But these humans seemed to view the Zephyrians as an opportunity, not a threat. Dr. Meliara made her way to the medical bay where human doctors were working alongside Zephyrian healers. The humans had brought portable medical equipment and were sharing their knowledge freely. Your physiology is remarkably similar to ours, explained Dr. Amanda Walsh, a human physician. Carbon-based, similar atmospheric requirements, comparable metabolic processes. Some of our medications can be adapted for your people with minor modifications. The Zephyrian younglings who had been growing weaker by the day were responding well to human medical care. The doctors had brought specialized nutrition supplements that their bodies could process, and the children's scales were beginning to regain their healthy blue luster. Why are you helping us? Dr. Meliare asked Dr. Walsh as they worked together to treat an elderly Zephyrian suffering from malnutrition. The human doctor looked surprised by the question. Because you need help. Because you asked for it. Because we can provide it. She paused in her work. Is that unusual? The Galactic Council turned us away. The Andromedan Republic wouldn't even respond to our transmissions. The Centauri Federation threatened us with military action if we approached their borders. Every advanced civilization in the galaxy slammed their doors shut when they heard we were coming. Dr. Walsh's expression hardened. Then, they're not as advanced as they think they are. Over the following days, more human ships arrived. The Eternal Hope was surrounded by a small fleet of vessels, each contributing to the massive rescue operation. Engineers worked around the clock to repair the Zephyrian ship's systems. Medical teams treated the refugees' health problems. Scientists collaborated to solve compatibility issues between human and Zephyrian technology. But it was the cultural exchanges that surprised Vexhai the most. Human musicians had begun learning Zephyrian songs, while Zephyrian artists taught human children traditional dances. Food specialists from both species worked together to create meals that appealed to both palates. Linguists collaborated to improve translation systems. Captain, Commander Thelen reported, the humans have invited a delegation of our people to visit their homeworld. They want to show us potential settlement sites. Vexhai accompanied the delegation aboard a human transport ship called Friendship. The vessel was cramped and noisy compared to galactic standard ships, but it was filled with an energy that was infectious. The human crew sang while they worked, told jokes during duty shifts, and treated the Zephyrian visitors like honored guests rather than refugees. Earth appeared on the main screen as they approached, a blue and white marble hanging in space. It was smaller than Kepler 442b had been, but it was vibrant and alive. The continents were green and brown, the oceans deep blue, and white clouds swirled through the atmosphere. It's beautiful, whispered Ensign Koreth. And crowded, added Captain Chun with a laugh. 8 billion humans and counting, but there's always room for more. They landed at a facility called the United Nations headquarters in a place called New York. Vexhai had never seen anything like it. A massive city with buildings reaching toward the sky, millions of humans moving through streets and tunnels, vehicles flying through the air on primitive repulsion systems. The UN building itself was modest by galactic standards, but the meeting room was filled with representatives from dozens of human nations. As Vexhai and his delegation entered, every human in the room stood and applauded. "Welcome to Earth," said Secretary General Maria Santos. "We're honored to meet you, and we're here to discuss how we can help your people build new lives among us." The discussions that followed were unlike any diplomatic negotiation Vexhai had ever experienced. Instead of arguing over costs and benefits, the human representatives competed to offer the most attractive settlement packages. Australia has vast empty spaces that could accommodate large communities, offered one representative. The climate in our outback regions might be similar to what your people are used to. Canada is prepared to offer citizenship pathways and full integration support, countered another. Our experience with immigration could help smooth the transition. Brazil has extensive agricultural programs that could benefit from Zephyrian expertise, suggested a third. Your people's knowledge of desert farming could help us expand food production. Dr. Melira, who was part of the delegation, listened in amazement. You're talking about giving us land, citizenship, jobs. What do you want in return? Your knowledge, replied Dr. Rachel Green, Earth's chief science advisor. Your culture, your perspectives. Diversity makes us stronger. Your people have experiences and insights that could benefit all of humanity. But we're refugees, Commander Thelen protested. We have nothing to offer but our need. You have 3,000 people with unique life experiences, Secretary General Santos replied. You've survived the death of your world and crossed interstellar space to find safety. That takes courage, determination, and wisdom. Those are exactly the qualities we value. The tour of potential settlement sites took several days. The humans showed them empty valleys that could house entire Zephyrian communities, research facilities where their scientists could work alongside human colleagues, schools where their children could learn and play with human youngsters. At every location, local human communities had prepared welcoming ceremonies. They offered traditional foods, performed cultural presentations, and expressed genuine excitement about the prospect of Zephyrian neighbors. I don't understand, Vexhai confided to Captain Chun as they visited a proposed settlement site in the American Southwest. Why are your people so eager to help strangers? Chun was quiet for a moment, looking out over the desert landscape. Humans have been refugees throughout our history, she finally said. Climate disasters, wars, persecution, our ancestors have fled from danger and sought new homes countless times. We know what it's like to be turned away, and we know what it means to be welcomed. But we're aliens. We're not even the same species. So what? Chin shrugged. You're people in need. You came to us asking for help. That's all that matters. That evening, as the Zephyrian delegation prepared to return to their ship, Dr. Melira approached Vexhai with a report. Captain, I've been analyzing human history and culture. This species has something unique. They've developed a concept they call hospitality to strangers. It's considered a fundamental moral principle in most of their cultures. Explain. They believe that helping strangers, even at personal cost, is not just morally good but essential to being human. They have stories, laws, and traditions all centered around the idea that turning away someone in need is wrong. HFY considered this. In galactic civilization, loyalty was owed to family, clan, species, and alliance. But humans seem to extend their concept of moral obligation to anyone who asked for help. It's not practical, he observed. No, Dr. Melare agreed. But it's working. Their willingness to help strangers has created trust between different human cultures. It's allowed them to cooperate despite their differences. And now it's saving us. As they returned to the eternal hope, HFY reflected on what he'd learned about humanity. They were indeed primitive by galactic technological standards. Their ships were crude, their cities chaotic, their governments fragmented. But they possessed something that the advanced civilizations of the galaxy had lost: the instinct to help those in need, regardless of the cost. The rescue fleet continued its work around the Zephyrian ship. Human engineers had managed to restore full life support, and medical teams had treated all the sick and injured refugees. Food synthesizers were producing meals that satisfied both human and Zephyrian nutritional needs. But, more importantly, the humans were treating the Zephyrians not as burdens to be endured, but as future neighbors to be welcomed. They shared stories, exchanged cultural knowledge, and began planning for a future where both species could thrive together. As HFY stood on his bridge, watching human and Zephyrian children playing together in the ship's recreational areas, he realized that they had found more than just sanctuary. They had found something the galaxy's advanced civilizations had abandoned: the belief that strangers could become family. 6 months after the rescue, the first Zephyrian settlements on Earth were thriving beyond anyone's expectations. HFY stood in the observation tower of New Kepler City, a community built in the Nevada desert where 1,500 of his people had chosen to make their new home. The architectural blend was striking: traditional Zephyrian crystalline spires rising alongside human adobe structures, creating a unique fusion of two worlds. The integration statistics are remarkable, Dr. Melare reported, reviewing data on her tablet. Crime rates in mixed communities are actually lower than in purely human settlements. Economic productivity is up 18% in areas with Zephyrian residents. And the technological collaboration projects are exceeding all projections. Through the tower's windows, HFY could see Zephyrian farmers working alongside human engineers to install advanced hydroponic systems. The desert was blooming with crops that could never have grown in this harsh environment before. Zephyrian knowledge of arid world agriculture combined with human innovation had created something neither species could have achieved alone. The success story was being repeated around the globe. In Canada, Zephyrian cold adaptation expertise was helping humans develop better Arctic technologies. In Brazil, joint research teams were revolutionizing sustainable farming practices. In Australia, Zephyrian and human musicians were creating entirely new forms of art. But the most significant changes were happening in space. Captain, Commander Thelen called from the communication station. We're receiving a priority transmission from the International Space Station. Dr. Park wants to speak with you immediately. Dr. Gene Park was the lead scientist on the joint human-Zephyrian space program that had been established to repair and upgrade the Eternal Hope. What had started as a simple maintenance project had evolved into something far more ambitious. HFY, Dr. Park's excited voice came through the speakers. You need to see this. We've successfully integrated Zephyrian gravitational manipulation technology with human quantum computing systems. The efficiency improvements are incredible. The former Zephyrian captain, now serving as Earth's first alien integration administrator, reviewed the technical data with amazement. The humans had taken their people's advanced technology and found ways to improve it using approaches that no Zephyrian engineer had ever considered. How is this possible? He asked Dr. Park during their video conference. Different perspectives, the human scientist replied enthusiastically. Your people approach problems with millions of years of evolutionary optimization. You find the most efficient solutions. But Humans are chaos engineers. We try things that shouldn't work, and sometimes they do. When you combine Zephyrian precision with human creativity, magic happens. The results were more than magical, they were revolutionary. The hybrid technologies being developed in Earth's laboratories were advancing both species' capabilities by centuries. But, more importantly, they were attracting attention from beyond the Sol system. Sir, Ensign Koreth announced from his new position at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Center, we're detecting multiple ships approaching the outer system. The signatures match Centauri Federation vessels. Vexhi's blood chilled. The Centauri Federation had been among the first to refuse aid to the Zephyrian refugees. If they were coming now, it wasn't to offer help. The lead ship identified itself as the CFS Sovereign, flagship of the Centauri exploration fleet. Its commander, Admiral Kextar, appeared on the main screen with his characteristic arrogance intact. "Attention primitive world Sol 3, the Admiral announced in standard galactic protocol. I am Admiral Kextar of the Centauri Federation Navy. We have detected unauthorized use of advanced technology in this system. You will submit to inspection and surrender any technology beyond your development level." Captain Sarah Chun, now commanding Earth's Unified Space Defense Force, responded with cool professionalism. "Admiral Kextar, this is Captain Chun of the Earth Defense Fleet. The technology you've detected is being used with full authorization from its original owners, who are now citizens of Earth. You have no jurisdiction in this system." Citizens. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "You granted citizenship to alien refugees? Primitives do not have the authority to naturalize galactic citizens." "We're not asking for galactic authority," Captain Chin replied. "Earth is a sovereign world, and we determine our own citizenship laws. The Zephyrians requested sanctuary, which we granted. They requested citizenship, which we provided. They've chosen to share their knowledge with us, which we've accepted." Admiral Kextar's expression grew angry. "This is a violation of galactic non-interference protocols. Primitive worlds are not permitted to acquire advanced technology until they meet standard development criteria." "Which protocols?" Dr. Melira asked, having joined the communication from her laboratory on Luna Base. "Earth was never contacted by the Galactic Council. No non-interference treaties were signed. You classified us as restricted and, then, ignored us for 2 centuries. The protocols exist whether you acknowledge them or not." Admiral Kextar snapped. "Surrender the technology or face the consequences." The transmission ended, and Earth's defense fleet went to high alert. The human ships were still primitive compared to Centauri vessels, but they weren't defenseless. The integrated human Zephyrian technologies had been incorporated into Earth's space fleet, giving them capabilities that no one in the galaxy expected. Captain Chan, Vexhi said over the fleet communication channel, "The Centauri don't negotiate. They'll demand unconditional surrender and treat any resistance as rebellion. Then, they're going to be disappointed," Chin replied. "We don't surrender our people, regardless of which planet they were born on." The Centauri fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers and a dreadnought flagship. By galactic standards, it was enough firepower to pacify a dozen primitive worlds. But Earth had been busy since the Zephyrian arrival. The human fleet that rose to meet them included 40 vessels of various sizes. Most appeared to be converted civilian ships, hardly worthy of the name warship. Admiral Kextar was preparing to order their immediate surrender when his tactical officer made an alarming discovery. "Sir, the power readings from those primitive vessels, they're not primitive at all. I'm detecting energy signatures consistent with gravitational manipulation drives, quantum shield generators, and plasma weapon systems." "Impossible," Admiral Kextar growled. "No primitive species could develop such technology independently." "Sir, we're receiving detailed scans of our fleet. They know our weapon systems, shield frequencies, and tactical capabilities better than they should." On the bridge of the EDS Endeavor, Captain Chin smiled grimly as she reviewed the tactical data. "Advantage of having allies who used to face Centauri ships," she told her crew. Dr. Melira's people know every weakness in their design. The first exchange of fire was brief and decisive. The Centauri ships opened with standard intimidation tactics, low-power warning shots designed to demonstrate their overwhelming firepower. The human ships responded with precision strikes that disabled 3 Centauri cruisers without destroying them. How? Admiral Kextar demanded as damage reports flooded his bridge. Their weapons shouldn't be capable of penetrating our shields. Sir, they're not using conventional weapons. The energy signatures suggest some kind of hybrid technology. Our shields weren't designed to handle this type of attack. Dr. Park, monitoring the battle from Luna Base, explained to his colleagues what was happening. Centauri shields are optimized against standard galactic weapons, plasma cannons, particle beams, photon torpedoes. But we're using quantum tunneling projectiles guided by Zephyrian gravitational manipulation. The shields can't deflect weapons that exist in quantum superposition until they're inside the shield envelope. The Centauri fleet found itself outmatched by an opponent they had dismissed as primitives. Worse, the humans weren't fighting like any species the Admiral had encountered before. Instead of trying to destroy the Centauri ships, they were systematically disabling them, rendering them helpless but intact. Admiral, his communication officer reported, the Earth fleet is hailing us. Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen, her expression serious but not hostile. Admiral Kextar, your ships are disabled, but your crews are unharmed. We can repair your vessels and provide safe passage out of our system, or we can continue this engagement. Your choice. You dare threaten the Centauri Federation? Admiral Kextar sputtered. I'm offering you mercy, Chen replied. Something your people didn't offer the Zephyrian refugees when they were dying in space. Admiral Kextar found himself in an impossible situation. His fleet was defeated, but the primitives were offering to let him leave with his honor intact. It was unprecedented in galactic warfare. Why, he asked. You have us at your mercy. By galactic law, you could demand tribute, territory, even complete surrender. Because we're not interested in conquest, Chen explained. We're interested in coexistence. The Zephyrians came to us asking for help, and we helped them. You came here demanding submission, and we defended ourselves. But we don't want to be your enemies. From the observation deck of New Kepler City, Vexhai watched the battle's conclusion with mixed emotions. The humans had defeated one of the galaxy's major powers using technology and tactics that no one could have predicted. But, more importantly, they had done it while maintaining their principles. They could have destroyed the Centauri fleet, Dr. Meliare observed, joining him at the window. Their weapons were more than capable of it. But they didn't, Vexhai replied. Even in victory, they chose mercy over vengeance. They're fighting to protect, not to conquer. The Centauri ships, hastily repaired by human engineering teams, departed the Sol system in defeat. But word of their encounter spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The primitive world in the restricted system had not only survived contact with a major galactic power, they had won. More importantly, they had done it while defending alien refugees that the rest of the galaxy had abandoned. Within weeks, ships from dozens of species were approaching Earth. Some came seeking alliance with this unexpected new power. Others came hoping to trade for the revolutionary hybrid technologies being developed. But many came carrying refugees of their own, hoping to find the same sanctuary that the Zephyrians had discovered. Captain, Commander Thelen reported from Earth's expanded Deep Space Monitoring Center, we're detecting 17 refugee ships inbound from various systems. The closest is carrying survivors from the Rigel mining colonies. Vexhai smiled, remembering how the Rigel Confederacy had threatened to fire on the Eternal Hope just months earlier. Now their own refugees were seeking help from the humans they had scorned. What are the human authorities saying about the new arrivals? He asked. The same thing they said about us, Thelen replied. Welcome to Earth. Let's see how we can help. Standing in the city that bore his people's lost homeworld's name, Vexhai realized that the humans had done more than save the Zephyrian refugees. They had created something entirely new, a world where different species could not only coexist, but thrive together. And, in doing so, they had begun to show the galaxy what true civilization could look like. 2 years after the Centauri incident, Earth had become the most sought-after destination in the galaxy. The planet that had once been dismissed as a restricted backwater now hosted representatives from 47 different species. The United Nations building had been expanded 3 times to accommodate the growing diplomatic presence. Vexhai, now serving as Earth's ambassador for refugee affairs, stood before the largest gathering of galactic powers in recorded history. The emergency session of the expanded Galactic Council had been called to address what they termed the Earth problem. The primitive world has violated every established protocol, declared Chancellor Morgeth of the Andromedan Republic, his translator struggling to convey his outrage. They have granted citizenship to refugees from 18 different systems, shared advanced technology with unqualified species, and created an unauthorized alliance network. Unauthorized by whom? Asked Secretary General Santos, Earth's representative to the Council. Earth was never consulted when these protocols were established. We were never invited to join your council. You classified us as restricted and, then, ignored us for 2 centuries. Because you were primitives. Chancellor Morgeth snapped. Incapable of understanding galactic civilization. Yet we're the only ones who answered when people were crying for help, Santos replied calmly. While your advanced civilizations were slamming doors and turning away refugees, Earth opened its arms to anyone seeking sanctuary. The debate had been raging for hours, but Vexhai knew it was really about fear. The galactic powers weren't angry about Earth's violations of protocol. They were terrified of what Earth represented. Dr. Melira, now director of the Galactic Integration Institute, had spent months analyzing the political situation. Her report was sobering. The major powers have built their authority on the principle of exclusivity. Resources, technology, and territory are carefully controlled to maintain existing power structures. Earth's approach of inclusion and cooperation undermines the entire system. The proof of Earth's success surrounded them. In the diplomatic gallery, representatives from dozens of species sat together peacefully. Zephyrians, Rigelians, vegan refugees, Procyon miners, Tau Ceti scientists, all of them citizens of Earth now, all of them contributing to humanity's growing influence. The economic data is undeniable, reported Dr. Jean Park, who had been invited to address the council. Worlds that have adopted Earth's inclusive policies show higher productivity, lower crime rates, and increased innovation. The hybrid technologies we've developed through interspecies cooperation are advancing everyone's capabilities. Propaganda dismissed Admiral Kextar, who had returned to the council bearing the shame of his defeat. These gains are temporary. Diversity leads to chaos. Different species cannot coexist permanently. Tell that to my children, interrupted Thelen, who had married a human engineer and was now raising a mixed family. Her comment drew murmurs from the gallery, where other interspecies families watched the proceedings. The council's real concern became clear when High Counselor Vexthara of the Vegan Empire stood to speak. The issue is not whether Earth's policies work within their own system. The issue is that these policies are spreading. 17 worlds have declared themselves sanctuary planets following Earth's example. Our own refugee populations are demanding the same rights and opportunities that Earth provides. And that's a problem because? Santos asked. Because it's unsustainable. Vexthara's composed mask slipped, revealing the panic underneath. If every world starts accepting unlimited refugees, if every species starts sharing their technology freely, the entire galactic economy will collapse. Or evolve, suggested Dr. Melira from her seat in the scientific advisory section. The current system is based on scarcity and competition. Earth has demonstrated that abundance and cooperation create better outcomes for everyone. Chancellor Morgeth stood abruptly. Enough philosophical debate. The Council demands immediate compliance. Earth will cease accepting refugees, surrender all unauthorized technology, and submit to galactic oversight. Or what? Santos asked. Or face the consequences, Admiral Kextar added, though his threat carried less weight than it once had. The gallery fell silent. Everyone present knew that Earth's military capabilities had grown exponentially since the Centauri encounter. The hybrid human-alien technologies were decades ahead of standard galactic equipment, and Earth's unusual approach to warfare, disabling rather than destroying, defending rather than conquering, had proven frustratingly effective. But, more importantly, Earth wasn't alone anymore. The Council should be aware, Santos said quietly, that any action against Earth would also be an action against its citizens, including the refugees from your own worlds whom you abandoned. Furthermore, added Captain Chun via holographic link from the EDS Endeavor, Earth has mutual defense agreements with 41 worlds and counting. An attack on Earth is an attack on the entire Sanctuary Alliance. The name was new, but the concept had been growing for months. Worlds that had adopted Earth's inclusive policies were naturally forming connections with each other, sharing resources and technology, just as Earth shared with its refugee populations. High Counselor Vexthara laughed bitterly. Primitives and rebels. You think this ragtag alliance can stand against the combined fleets of the galactic powers? We don't want to stand against anyone, Santos replied. We want to stand with everyone. The question is, what kind of galaxy do you want to live in? Vexhai had been listening to the debate with growing frustration, but now he stood to address the council directly. As a former refugee who had become one of Earth's most respected administrators, his voice carried unique authority. 2 years ago, the eternal hope was dying in space. He began, his words translated simultaneously into dozens of languages. 3,000 Zephyrians faced extinction because every advanced civilization in the galaxy turned its back on us. We were inconvenient. We were expensive. We were problems to be avoided. The council chamber was completely silent now. Then, we found Earth. A primitive world, you said. A restricted backwater populated by violent species unfit for galactic contact. Those primitives saw our distress signal and responded immediately. They didn't ask about our resources or our military value. They didn't demand payment or territorial concessions. They simply asked, how can we help? Vexhai gestured to the gallery where his people sat alongside humans and dozens of other species. Today, Zephyrian children play in Earth schools alongside human youngsters and Regalian cubs. Our scientists work in Earth's laboratories developing technologies that benefit all our species. Our artists create beauty that neither humans nor Zephyrians could have achieved alone. He turned back to face the council directly. You call this primitive. You call it unsustainable. You call it a threat to galactic civilization. I call it the future. Pretty words, Chancellor Morgeth sneered. But sentiment doesn't change reality. Resources are finite. Territory is limited. Technology requires regulation. The strong must lead and the weak must follow, or chaos results. The only chaos I see, Vexhai replied, is the chaos of empires built on the suffering of others. You've created a galaxy where entire civilizations can die while their neighbors debate the cost of compassion. Earth proved there's a better way. Dr. Park stood to add his perspective. From a purely scientific standpoint, the diversity of thought and experience that comes from integration accelerates innovation exponentially. In 2 years, Earth's technological advancement has exceeded what we achieved in the previous 2 centuries. When you bring different minds together, they solve problems that homogeneous groups can't even see. And, from a military perspective, Captain Shin added via her link, Earth's defensive capabilities are now superior to any single galactic power. Not because we conquered anyone, but because dozens of species freely shared their knowledge with us. Cooperation makes us all stronger than isolation ever could. The council session continued for hours, but the outcome was becoming clear. The galactic powers could continue their traditional approach of exclusion and competition, but they would be increasingly isolated as more worlds adopted Earth's model. Finally, High Counselor Vexthara called for a recess. As the various delegations dispersed to discuss their positions, Vexhai found himself approached by a surprising figure, Admiral Kextar. Ambassador Vexhai, the Centauri officer said formally, I request a private audience. They met in one of the council building's diplomatic suites, away from the cameras and recording devices that monitored the main chambers. Speak freely, Vexhai offered. Admiral Kextar was quiet for a long moment. My youngest son is dying, he finally said. A genetic disorder common to our species. Our medical technology can slow the progression, but cannot cure it. I'm sorry to hear that. Earth's medical advances, the hybrid technologies developed through interspecies cooperation, they could save him. But the Federation has forbidden any contact with Earth's medical system. Vexhai understood. You want me to arrange treatment for your son? Yes, but that's not all. Admiral Kextar's composure cracked slightly. The Federation has 7 million citizens suffering from various incurable conditions. Earth's integrated medical research could help all of them. But pride and politics prevent us from asking. What are you suggesting? A private medical exchange. Unofficial. Your people help ours. We share our knowledge with your researchers. No formal agreements. No political implications. Vexhai smiled. It was exactly the kind of arrangement that Earth had pioneered. Cooperation based on need and mutual benefit, not formal treaties and power structures. I'll make some calls, he promised. As Admiral Kextar left the meeting with hope in his eyes for the first time in months, Vexhai realized that Earth's influence was already changing the galaxy in ways that no council session could measure. One person at a time, one family at a time, one act of compassion at a time, the human approach to civilization was spreading. The formal debate would continue, but the real victory was already won. The galaxy was learning what it meant to say welcome instead of go away, and nothing the council decided could change that. 5 years had passed since the Eternal Hope first detected Earth's welcome signal, and the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. Vexhai stood in the observation deck of Sanctuary Station, humanity's first interstellar outpost, watching ships from hundreds of worlds dock in peaceful cooperation. The station itself was a marvel of integrated engineering. Human creativity merged with Zephyrian environmental systems, Regalian gravitational technology, vegan quantum computing, and innovations from dozens of other species. It served as the headquarters for what had become known as the Sanctuary Alliance, a coalition of 247 worlds united by Earth's principles of inclusion and mutual aid. The latest refugee convoy is arriving from Sector 7, reported Commander Thelen, now Director of Immigration Services. 15 ships carrying survivors from the Draconan Civil War. The Galactic Council refused them sanctuary 6 months ago. Preparations? Vexhai asked, though he knew the answer. Housing modules are ready on 3 different worlds. Medical teams are standing by. Cultural integration specialists have been studying Draconan needs for weeks. And, she smiled, 17 different species have volunteered to host Draconan families. It had become the standard pattern. When the traditional galactic powers turned away refugees, the Sanctuary Alliance opened its arms. What had started as Earth's moral choice had evolved into a galaxy-spanning network of worlds committed to the principle that no one should be abandoned. Dr. Melira approached with her daily report. Now in her 70s, she had become the Alliance's chief historian, documenting the changes that were reshaping galactic civilization. The transformation statistics continue to amaze me, she said, reviewing her datapad. Crime rates in Alliance territory are 60% lower than in Council space. Economic productivity is up 40%. Technological advancement is accelerating exponentially. And, most remarkably, we haven't had a single war between Alliance members. Because it's hard to fight people you've welcomed into your home, Vexhai observed. The contrast with the traditional galactic powers was stark. The Andromedan Republic was facing internal rebellion as their own people demanded the rights and opportunities available in Alliance space. The Centauri Federation had split into 3 separate factions, each pursuing different relationships with the Alliance. The Vegan Empire was struggling with massive refugee populations fleeing to Alliance worlds. Sir, called Ensign Koreth from the communications station, priority transmission from Earth. Dr. Park wants to speak with you about the Quantum Resonance Project. The project was the Alliance's most ambitious undertaking yet, a galaxy-wide communication network that would allow instantaneous contact between member worlds. But, more than that, it represented the philosophical heart of what Earth had started. Dr. Park appeared on the main screen, his hair now gray but his enthusiasm undimmed. Vexhai, we did it. The quantum resonance test was successful. We now have real-time communication across 17,000 light-years. Congratulations. When will the network be fully operational? 6 months for basic connectivity to all Alliance worlds. But here's the remarkable part. We're not limiting access. The network will be open to any world that wants to participate, Alliance member or not. Vexhai wasn't surprised. It was the human approach. Share the benefits, invite cooperation, build bridges instead of walls. But the network represented more than advanced communication technology. For the first time in galactic history, every inhabited world could speak directly to every other inhabited world. Information, ideas, and cultures could flow freely across space, unfiltered by government censors or corporate interests. The implications were staggering, as demonstrated by the emergency council session that had been called to address the quantum communication crisis. Chancellor Morgeth of the Andromedan Republic appeared via holographic projection, his usual arrogance replaced by barely controlled panic. This network is a direct threat to galactic stability. Unrestricted communication will lead to chaos, misinformation, and the collapse of established order. Or it will lead to understanding, cooperation, and the end of information monopolies, replied Secretary General Santos from Earth. Strange how those two outcomes look the same to some people. High Counselor Vexthera was more direct. We demand that this network be placed under council oversight. Communication between worlds must be regulated to maintain security. Security for whom? Asked Captain Chun, now Admiral of the Alliance Defense Fleet. Your security depends on keeping your populations ignorant of alternatives. The network threatens that control. The real crisis wasn't technological, it was political. For millennia, the galactic powers had maintained authority by controlling information flow between worlds. Citizens knew only what their governments chose to tell them about conditions on other planets. But the quantum network would make such control impossible. Imagine, Dr. Melaire had written in her latest analysis, a galaxy where every being can speak directly to every other being, where ideas flow freely across species and stellar boundaries, where innovation and cooperation happen at the speed of thought rather than the speed of bureaucracy. The traditional powers saw this as catastrophic. The Alliance saw it as inevitable. But the network faced a more immediate challenge than political opposition. As word spread of the Alliance's open access policy, millions of beings across the galaxy began requesting connection codes. The demand was overwhelming existing infrastructure. We need more quantum resonance stations, Dr. Park reported from Earth. Current projections suggest we'll need to increase capacity by 400% to handle legitimate requests. Legitimate by whose definition? Vexhai asked. Anyone who wants to connect, Dr. Park replied. That's been our policy from the beginning. It was the human way. If someone asks for help, you provide it. If someone wants to communicate, you facilitate it. If someone needs connection, you build the infrastructure to support it. But implementing such idealism required practical solutions. The Alliance had grown from Earth's original partnership with the Zephyrians into a complex network of hundreds of worlds, each contributing according to its capabilities and receiving according to its needs. The Regalian mining worlds can provide the exotic matter needed for quantum resonance generators, reported Admiral Chun during the Alliance planning session. The vegan scientists have developed more efficient quantum entanglement protocols. The Tau Ceti engineers have designed modular station components that can be manufactured quickly. And Earth provides the vision that ties it all together, Vexhai added. The construction of the expanded network became the largest cooperative project in galactic history. Ships from dozens of species worked together to deploy quantum resonance stations throughout Alliance space and beyond. The work was dangerous and complex, requiring precise coordination across vast distances. But, more remarkably, worlds outside the Alliance began requesting stations. The appeal of unrestricted communication proved irresistible, even to governments that officially opposed the Alliance's policies. Admiral Kextar sends his regards, reported Thelen with amusement. The Centauri Federation has officially condemned the quantum network while secretly requesting connection protocols for their outlying colonies. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The same powers that had turned away refugees and condemned Earth's policies were now benefiting from the technologies and connections that those policies had created. As the quantum network expanded, it began facilitating exactly the kind of free exchange of ideas that the traditional powers feared. Scientists on distant worlds collaborated in real time. Artists shared their work across species barriers. Ordinary citizens made friends with beings they'd never imagined meeting. But the network also enabled something more profound: truth. For the first time, citizens of the galactic powers could communicate directly with residents of Alliance worlds. They could see for themselves the prosperity and peace that the Alliance had achieved. They could witness interspecies cooperation in action rather than relying on their government's propaganda. The results were predictable. 17 worlds have petitioned to leave the Andromedan Republic and join the Alliance, reported Dr. Melire. The Centauri Federation is facing massive demonstrations demanding adoption of Alliance-style refugee policies. The Vegan Empire has lost 12 colony worlds to Alliance recruitment. They're calling it the Sanctuary Revolution, added Ensign Korath. Beings everywhere are demanding the same rights and opportunities that Alliance citizens enjoy. The revolution wasn't violent. It didn't need to be. The Alliance's example was so compelling that beings simply chose to leave the old systems and join the new one. It was democracy at a galactic scale, powered by the free flow of information and ideas. Standing in Sanctuary Station's observation deck, watching ships from hundreds of worlds work together to expand the quantum network, Vexhai reflected on how far they'd all come. The Eternal Hope had been a ship full of refugees fleeing the death of their world. They'd found not just sanctuary on Earth, but inspiration. Humans had shown them that strangers could become family, that diversity was strength, that cooperation was more powerful than competition. Now that vision was spreading across the galaxy, one connection at a time, one conversation at a time, one act of welcome at a time. Sir, Felon called out. Incoming message from the Quantum Network Test Facility on Earth. Dr. Park wants to make an announcement. Dr. Park appeared on the main screen, flanked by representatives from dozens of species. Behind them, the massive quantum resonance core hummed with energy that connected billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Today, Dr. Park announced, the Galactic Quantum Communication Network achieved full operational capacity. Every inhabited world in the galaxy now has access to instantaneous communication with every other world. Information, ideas, and friendship can now travel at the speed of light across the entire galaxy. He paused, looking directly into the camera. This network exists because different species chose to work together instead of apart. Because refugees were welcomed instead of turned away. Because humans decided that hello was a better greeting than go away. As the transmission ended, Vexhai smiled. The galaxy that had once turned away the Zephyrian refugees now carried their voices to every star system. The species that had been too primitive for galactic contact had taught the galaxy how to truly communicate. Earth's doors had been open from the beginning, broadcasting welcome signals into the void for decades before anyone answered. Now the entire galaxy was learning to keep its doors open too. The revolution was complete, but it had never been fought with weapons. It had been won with welcome mats.